So let's read this passage. This passage came in CAT 2018, and the passage has 5 questions. So we will take this passage. First, we will read the passage, and slightly longer passage. Usually, the passages are in the range of 500, maybe to 600, 500 words, not more than that. Rarely do we come across passages which are longer than 600 words. So one thing that we have seen in the recent CAT papers is that the length of the passages has gone down considerably. Earlier, in the pen paper era, the passages used to be of 700, 800 words, 900 words. That is not the case anymore. Let's read the passage. It says, "Creativity is at once our most precious resource and our most inexhaustible one. As anyone who has ever spent any time with children knows, every single human being is born creative. Every human being is innately endowed with the ability to combine and recombine data, perceptions, materials, and ideas, and devise new ways of thinking and doing. What fosters creativity?" So the author says creativity is at once our most precious resource, and then he puts lots of description, and then he says what fosters creativity. More than anything else, the presence of other creative people. The big myth is that creativity is the province of great individual geniuses. In fact, creativity is a social process. Our biggest creative breakthroughs come when people learn from, compete with, and collaborate with other people. So the first paragraph is very much clear to us. It's simple, lucid style, that creativity is a result of social interaction. This is what the author says, right? And our biggest creative breakthrough comes from social interaction. Cities are the true fonts of creativity, with the diverse populations, dense social networks, and public spaces where people can meet spontaneously and serendipitously. They spark and catalyze new ideas. With their infrastructure for finance, organization, and trade, they allow those ideas to be swiftly actualized. So this too is about creativity, and of course, very much in tune with what has come in the earlier paragraph. As for what staunches creativity, so the author talks about what promotes creativity, and now he seems to be going in the direction of what staunches creativity. That is easy if ironic. It's the very institution that we built to manage, exploit, and perpetuate the fruits of creativity. Our big bureaucracies, and sad to say, too many of our schools. Creativity is disruptive. Schools and organizations are regimented, standardized, and stultifying. So the author talks about what exactly holds back creativity, and he puts lots of things here. So that is how you do the mapping. In the first para, creativity is possible because of social interaction. Second para, almost the same thing: social interaction, then social network, public spaces, and then what disrupts creativity. And further, the author says the education expert Sir Ken Robinson points to a 1968 study reporting on a group of 1,600 children who were tested over time for their ability to think in out of the box. When the children were between 3 and 5 years old, 98% achieved positive scores. When they were 8 to 10, only 32% passed the same test, and only 10% at 13 to 15. When 280,000 people or 25-year-olds took the test, just 2% passed. By the time we are adults, our creativity has been wrung out of us. So the author says that the creativity decreases because of as we grow, and of course in the context that the more educated we become, in the sense that the school system, the education system is wrunging creativity out of us. This is what the author wants to say. Now let's go to the last two paragraphs here, and further he says, "I asked the great urbanist Jane Jacobs what makes some places more creative than others. She said essentially that the question was an easy one. All cities, she said, were filled with creative people. That's our default state as people. But some cities had more than their shares of leaders, people, and institutions that blocked out that creativity. She called them squelchers. Creativity, or the lack of it, follows the same general contours of the great socio-economic divide, our rising inequality that plagues us. According to my own estimates, roughly a third of us across the US, and perhaps as much as half of us in most creative cities, are able to do work which engages our creative faculties to some extent, whether as artists, musicians, writers, techies, innovators, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, journalists, or educators, those of us who work with our minds. That leaves a group that I term the other 66%, who toil in low-wage rote." And so here the author has used the socio-economic idea that some people use creativity, some people don't use creativity, and how they are, what kind of job they are into. Creativity itself is not in danger. It's flourishing in all around us, in science and technology, arts and culture, in our rapidly revitalizing cities. But we still have a long way to go if we want to build a truly creative society that supports and rewards the creativity of each and every one of us. Now, the author has said that creativity is not in danger as such. There is creativity all around. But then he says a truly creative society would be where everyone is creative in a way. That is what he wants to say. So, the good thing about this passage is that it is easy to read, no doubt about it. And we know that the author starts with the paragraph saying creativity is a social process and cities are the fountains of creativity. Then he again extends that in the second paragraph. Then he goes and says what holds back creativity or what staunches creativity. And then he points to a study which showed that as people study more and more, as they progress in school, the creativity out of them is wrung out of them. And then he quotes Jane Jacobs, and then towards the end the socio-economic thing comes in the second last paragraph, and then the author concludes by saying that it's not that creativity is totally missing or is in danger, but it's flourishing all around us, but of course we're not truly creative. So it's very much, I would say, matter of fact passage, not much of argument, simple ideas. And we can go and directly take the questions. So the first question says, in the author's view, so here you see the questions, right? So it says, in the author's view, cities promote human creativity for all of the following reasons except that they. So cities promote creativity for all of the following reasons except that. So the first question definitely can be answered from either the first paragraph or the second paragraph, or maybe both. Because after that, the author has said how creativity is not possible, what makes creativity impossible or difficult, or rather what staunches creativity. So the answer to this question has to be in the second paragraph, right? And he says that if creativity is social process, so cities. So here we have the question, and the question says, in the author's view, cities promote, right? The word cities can be connected with the word cities here, right? So cities are the true forms of creativity with the diverse population. So population, diversity, social network, public spaces, infrastructure for finance. So all these things have come. Let's go and see which one. So you have to mark for the except. It says contains spaces that enable people to meet and share. Of course, public spaces. So this cannot be the right answer, right? Because you have to mark for except. Expose people to different novel ideas because they are home. Okay, diverse people, yes, this also is there. Provide access to culture, provide the financial and institutional networks. So here you have the infrastructure. Provide access to cultural activity that promote. Now, cultural activity has not come anywhere in the paragraph. If you go through the paragraph, the author has put lots of things, but there is no cultural activity. It says that there is social network, there is public spaces, there is infrastructure for finance, but there is no cultural activity as such. So we know that the answer straightforward is option number D, which would be the right choice. Easy, simple question. You have to just read, check, and mark the answer. Now, question number 2 here. The author uses ironic in the third paragraph. So it has told us where exactly the question has come from. So you have to go to the third paragraph, read the third paragraph, see what the word ironic is, and mark the answer. So I think it could be simpler than this, right? So you go to the third paragraph. As for what staunches creativity, that is easy, if ironic. It is the very institutions that we build to manage exploit and perpetuate creativity. So the institutions that are built to perpetuate creativity are the very ones that actually stultify it or staunch it. And that's the reason the irony. Irony basically means some kind of, unexpectedness. Irony basically means some sort of unexpectedness. It's like the person whom I trusted the most is the very person who betrayed me. So that is the irony of life. That is how you would say, right? So can we go and check which option is the best fit here? People use social contact rather than isolation to nurture their creativity. So A cannot be the irony. Institutions created to promote. So this is the answer. Institutions created to promote creativity eventually stifle it. Precisely what the author has said. It is the very institutions. I would say this is a very, very simple question. So what is the central idea of the passage? Now, central idea has come somewhere later. Usually in passages, the central idea comes at the start. And my suggestion is that whenever you have central idea question, you take it towards the end. Because when you take it towards the end, you would have gone through all the other questions, and as a result, you would have gone through the passage a number of times. And that makes the whole exercise a little easy. So the central idea is that social interaction is necessary. Very good, looks good, because this is precisely what the author has said. The author says in the first two paragraphs that social interaction creates creativity, and then later on he says that there are lots of things that actually stifle creativity. So both the things have come. So B says creativity and ideas are gradually declining. No, this is not a gradual decline. The author has said towards the end that it is flourishing all around us. If you really want to see the evidence for option B, against option B, the evidence to the contrary, you will find that towards the end the author has said that creativity itself is not dangerous. It is flourishing all around us. Its flourishing is all around us. So if creativity is flourishing all around us, then why should we say that creativity and ideas are declining in all societies? So this is not the central idea. This is against what the author has said. The creativity divide is widening. So socio-economic definitely is one of the things that has come. But can we say it's a central idea? See, when you say central idea, it should dominate the passage. That is what we mean by central idea. Central ideas should take great space. And much of the space in the RC has been taken by social interaction, promotes creativity, lots of things stifle creativity. It is the institution that stifle creativity. So, I would say that socio-economic trend is a little too much narrow, and it is widening. When you say it is widening, it basically means that it is gradually widening. This is what I mean by widening. So it was less, now it has become more, now it is becoming more. So this is how the widening process is. But the author has not said that. He has simply quoted that socio-economic divide is there. So first of all, this is not the central idea, and whatever has come is slightly distorted. And then more people should work in jobs. Again, the way C is focusing on only one paragraph, and D also is focusing on the same paragraph. So you can say that the bulk of the passage is dedicated to social interaction is necessary to nurture creativity. No doubt about it. And then, nurturing creativity and then the destruction of creativity, or not the nurturing of it, is just opposite of the same. See, the nurturing of creativity is one side of the coin, and the other side is what stifles creativity. So the author has discussed the same thing. So you can't say that there are two different things. Of course, there are two things, there are two different sides of the same coin. The social interaction makes it possible, but there are lots of institutions which are not encouraging it. And those institutions are also social institutions. A school, for example, is a social institution. So A is definitely the right choice. Now, the fourth question says, Jane Jacobs believed the cities that are more creative. So what has Jane Jacobs, cities that are more creative, right? So we have to answer for Jane Jacobs. Let's go and check. Jane Jacobs has come in this paragraph, right? This is where we have the word Jane Jacobs. So you can read this and check what Jane Jacobs has to say. I once asked the great urbanist Jane Jacobs what makes some places more creative, and she said essentially that the question was an easy one. All cities were filled with creative people. That's our default state as people. But some cities had more than their share of leaders and institutions that blocked out their creativity. So some cities have greater share of people who block their creativity, and that means the ones that have creativity don't have these kind of people. So in effect, cities that are more creative have fewer people who are blocking creativity. The cities that are more creative have fewer people that are blocking creativity. So you can say that yes, C is the answer. They have leaders and institutions that do not block. Why do not block? Because they are more creative. Had they been less creative, then you would have removed the not here, correct? That is how it goes. C is the straightforward choice. Simple questions, I would say. The 1968 study is used here to show that. So 1968 study, where has 1968 study come? Let's go and check there. So the 1968 study has come here in this paragraph, right? So I will just, while mapping, we got to know that there are figures in certain paragraphs, and this is the 1968 study. The education expert Ken Robinson points out to a 68 study reporting on a group of 1,600 children who were tested over time. So what does the report suggest? That as people grow older, they become less creative, right? So this is what the report was all about. As they grow older, children will learn to be more creative. No, this is not the choice. As they grow older, they become less creative. Schooling today does not encourage creative thinking in children. Quite possible. The more children learn, the less creative they become. Technology today, so you have only choose two choices. One is B and the other is C. Correct? The more children learn, the less creative they become. Schooling today does not encourage, but it's a very close choice kind of question. I would say that how is it possible that, because the more the schooling, the more you learn, and the less creative they become. Schooling today is not. But the point is, if you look at C, it is not about learning. It is basically, the author is not pointing at learning. See, as you grow in life, you will learn a lot, and therefore you become better person. The author is pointing at the study to basically bring out the weakness of schooling, saying that schooling does not encourage creative thinking, and that's the reason why. The more the schooling, the less the creativity. I mean, that is, and they're trying to prove that the more the schooling you do, the creativity goes on declining. The more children learn, the less creative they become. Now, the more children learn, the less creative they become. The problem is that learn is not the right word. I have learned the lesson. Learning is not memorizing. Learning is basically absorbing lots of things. And the author is not against learning. The author is saying that schooling has a problem. And for that, you have to go to the previous paragraph. It says creativity is disruptive. Schools and organizations are regimented, standardized, and stultifying. So when the children were between 3 and 5, 98%, when they were 8 to 10, only 32%. So as they are getting more and more schooling, they are becoming less and less creative. So it's not the learning which the author is finding flaw in, it is the schooling. Why? Because you have to connect the schools and organizations, and connect schools and organizations with this paragraph. Because learning can happen without schools and organizations. I mean, you can learn a lot without even going to school, on your own, right? So that is how the option B becomes a better choice and is indeed the right answer. So I would say relatively easy passage.